and welcome to Don't Die Before You're Dead. I'm your host, Mary McCartney, and this is where we talk about all those things about living the life that you are meant to live. And of course, like I say many times, how do we know what that is? Well, it's different things for different people. And if you're watching me, you kind of know I have many people from many walks of life talking to us about all kinds of things. Today is no exception. So today my guest is Annette Lavigne from Wasaga Beach, Ontario. And Annette is here to share with us as to what happens when you need to make changes in your life. You may have a career that's you thought was set, you might need to change it. How do you go forward? Annette has been a friend of mine for many years, and I've just watched as she's been able to transition and be able to live a life that's meaningful for her. So without further ado, welcome, Annette. Thank you so much for taking the time today to come and chat with us and to share with us what you're up to.
Not a problem, Mary. My pleasure. You know that always.
It's so good to see you. And of course, you've done a lot in the last little while. And I know you have studied and you've worked hard. So can you share a little bit about where you were and what you were thinking about as you needed to make a change and sort of where you were going?
Okay. Well, I guess prior to COVID, I had a regular sales type position. And then I started being in my early 60s at that time. I kind of thought I was winding down. And when after COVID, I didn't get back to that position, I kind of took just kind of a merchandising job. And I thought, well, I'm going to do this part-time until 65. That's really where my head was.
Mhm.
But I started running into people who were telling me, you're doing the right thing. You're smart. You're working. I quit work, and I realize now I couldn't go back to work if I chose to, and I felt kind of bad. And it also woke me up to the thought that, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not going to be ready in a couple of years. Now
Mhm.
that job was causing my hands to hurt. I just from something else that I had been doing for years, took a toll on the top of my palms. And that job was really excruciatingly painful. So I needed to let it go. But I could not let go of going back to work. So I decided to go back to school and take a course for mortgages to become a mortgage licensed agent.
So
So that's
what was
really,
part of your thinking to choose that industry?
well, someone I know who's an agent said you'd make a great agent. And I said, why? And she
Okay,
said, it's just within your nature.
very
And so
good.
it's the helping industry. It's the solving problem
Mhm.
industry. It's pretty independent, although you always have to work under someone else for accountability. It's
Mhm.
also a very strict industry. Now, when I took the course, I took it very seriously. I did have to make an investment in the course.
Mhm.
It was worth it. And I did have to invest of my time. Not, I wouldn't say a lot of time, but I still had to invest my time and be tested on, to get the license. What I liked about it is that it was very structured legally. If you do this, this could happen. If
Mhm.
you make a wrong decision or choice for your client, this could happen. And I actually liked that. That attracted me so that it was always black and white. Maybe a bit of shade of gray, but very rarely. You always do what's in the client's best interest. You
Right.
don't look, I was trained, do not look at your commission, do not look at the end dollar. You'll find out later what that is. Focus on your client's needs. And I really like that.
You are a service-oriented gal. Your history for as long as I've known you has been in the service industry. So this is one extension. And you know what I liked about what you said is that you had people who you respected and valued their opinion to suggest to you that maybe trying this field would be a good fit for you. And sometimes
Yeah.
people aren't too sure of what direction, that saying about when you come to a fork in the road, take it. And some people are stuck at the fork because they really don't know. But you, whether you saw, I don't know, did you go seek it out or did it just come to you? Because sometimes it can just be, it just arrives and we need to be aware that it's happening.
Well, no, first of all, what I had what I had to do is do some research, absolutely do some research and see if
Hmm.
it was the right industry for me. I did that first, but I also realized, Mary, there's two types of people in the world. There's those like yourself who retire and do the travel, and like you're a kind of a different person to me. And I had to come to terms with one day that maybe my hobby or in retirement is to always continually having a business, a small business. My heart beats a lot when I think about having a business. It doesn't beat a lot when I think about what you're doing. I'm excited for you, but I couldn't imagine doing that. I'm also a wedding officiant part-time, and that gets me excited as well. So I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years at 65 or 70 or 74. I might just wake up one day and be totally exhausted. But I know during COVID, I started taking some fabulous vitamins, and I don't know if they're giving me fake energy. I sure as heck hope not. But I'm going to continue I am faithful to my vitamins because I have more energy now than I've probably had in a lot of years. And I need it also to go back to school to use this.
But Annette, the
It
energy,
was a challenge. It was a
the
challenge.
energy, right?
Go ahead.
The energy in our bodies is one thing, but I think sometimes our bodies respond to our lazy thinking that it's too much effort. We can't be bothered. Your studies, you committed to, like how much time did you invest to get yourself licensed into a new profession? What kind, like, I mean, I think every industry probably has different levels of,
Yes.
of education to pursue that. But how much time would you say you invested into your new career?
Well, I believe you could have done it 5 days full-time live, but now because of the COVID thing, they switched everything over to online, and which
Okay.
was good for me because the 5 days might have been too intense for me, just
Mhm.
knowing the type of person I am. But the 5 weekends, so
Mhm.
I used the weeks to study and the weekends to go to school. So
Mhm.
Saturdays and Sundays. That worked really well for me. I was able to pace out, and then I was able to take the test. And if the test hadn't worked out, I was able to do it again. And if it didn't work out the second time, all I had to do was pay a small fee to do it again.
Right. Now
That became
you're
for
not
me.
necessarily a studious academic type individual. So somebody listening might say, "Well, that's okay for her, but I really struggle to learn. Like reading all of that stuff." And we're not just talking about the mortgage industry, are we? I mean, it could be anything, schooling. So how did you find that?
Well, I had someone have a little talk with me because when I picked up the 400-page book, first of all,
Uh-huh.
I had a heart attack, almost had a heart attack. And then they said that there were certain chapters that would not be on the test. So I settled down a little bit. But I
Mhm.
did reach out to a good friend of mine and say, how am I going to get through this? I'm not academic. I left school at 16 and have been really basically self-educated. I've read a lot. I'm a Toastmaster. You know, we all know about Toastmasters. That has helped me a lot. And he suggested that I look at this as self-education and not a testing ground. He said, read the information. He said, you're interested, correct? And I said, absolutely, I'm interested. And he said, well, what you're going to find is there's probably already a lot of stuff you already knew, purchased a home before. So I know what it takes to get a mortgage.
Mhm.
So I could sort of glide over the things I already knew and then read the new material with a new interest. And it was interest based as opposed to, I got to study this for an exam.
Well, as a teacher,
And
I know how many times that we put forth things that the kids aren't interested in, but the minute we have something they like, I taught English in high school, and you know how young people feel about Shakespeare, and yet I go down the hall and teach computers, and the students would say, "Well, how come you're such a different teacher?" And yet it really wasn't me. So finding really what you're interested in is key. So you would definitely say to people, as much as you struggled, that if they're going to branch out, if they're going to be looking at something new, that it
yes,
is it is doable. You're proof.
abs, if you have no interest,
Mhm.
you're not going to it's not going to sit in your head. It's not going to
Right.
catch. And another thing he told me is, what if you fail? What if you fail? What's the
Good
worst
question.
thing that can happen?
Uh-huh.
Said, I'll do it again. Right. And what if you fail again? Um, I'll do it again. And he goes, so what's the big deal? And I looked at it differently from then. I just took all the stress off me and said, so what if I do fail? Go back at it again. So that I needed
Good
to hear
message.
that. I needed to learn as well, how to read with the need to just read for educational purposes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
enjoyment.
Right.
That's
Well,
what I
you
did.
were you were looking towards a future doing something you were very interested in, serving
Yes,
people which you love. So, what would you
yes.
suggest to people who are looking at retirement and really don't have anything to look forward to? What would you suggest to them?
Because I live in a community where there's retired people, trust me, some of them just embrace it. Like they embrace retirement. They're golfers. I'm not a
Mhm.
golfer. They are artists. They embrace their art. They embrace being able to walk around the block anytime they want. So there is a different type of retired person. For those who just continue to question themselves, what could I be doing? Well, the first thing, and I'm going there, join a group.
Yes.
Join a knitters group. Play cards. Playing cards is really good for the brain. I love it. It's been great for my memory and my spontaneous moves, and can't beat cards, which I've never played my entire life. Another thing, head out to a Toastmasters meeting. It's totally social, but educational at every meeting. So there's this continued balance, camaraderie, people, learning, fun, never not laughed during a meeting in almost 30 years. And then once you find your voice, perhaps it will direct you. Maybe you'll want to start teaching something you know a lot about. Maybe you're a knitter. Have you ever thought about starting up a small circle for young women that don't know how to knit, but they want to? Crochet. I think we all have talents, and someone has to point them out to us. We can't figure it out ourselves, so we have to go outside ourselves.
True. That's true. There are
Yeah.
those people who choose at a retirement age of whatever that might be, the middle 60s, who think they're done. They come to the place where they've been looking forward to that retirement. They're going to go home. They're done. They don't have to do anything they don't want to do. And yet, that's probably a mindset that could get them really stuck for too long and regret it later. So maybe suggestions like you're not at retirement. So you started your process earlier. Was that intentional?
Was that intentional? I don't think anything's ever intentional with me. It's just the way it
Okay.
happens.
Yeah.
I think at 60, I thought, well, I've got more years to work, and then I can, legitimately in my own head retire. And then I realized one day, my husband is a homebody, and he likes to rebuild motorcycles in the garage, and he loves doing that. What am I going to do? Spend money if I'm retired? No, I can't do that. I have to keep the brain moving. So if at 60 you're thinking that, or 60, 65, how many women I've met in the neighborhood, they've gone back to work in a nursing home, helping other people, at all levels. They've gone back part-time. Some of
Even
them have gone
volunteer.
volunteers always, but sometimes people still need cash. They still need an
True.
income stream.
True.
So a lot of people I know work part-time somewhere else, and that money is to send them away in the winter.
Right. True
It
enough.
completely pays for their trip off to Florida or Mexico, wherever they want to go.
Right.
So
Right.
it's sometimes, and also they want to keep moving, because we all know what happens if we stop moving, Mary.
Yes, we seize up and we can't So, what my saying is do what you can while you can, for as long as you can, because I think the day comes for all of us where we have got to the end of our energy physically to get out and do the things that perhaps we wanted to do. So some of us don't handle that too well. But I mean, if we've spent 20 years not doing anything and now we can't, what a lot of wasted opportunity. I used to think, Annette, I don't know if you felt the way I did, but I used to look at some people that were more mature and older working in like Walmart or Tim Hortons, and I used to think it was a financial thing for them, and I felt badly for them. But as I've aged and as I've looked around and got a little wiser with conversations with people, I realized the desire to still be part of society is there.
Yes, and there are some former bank managers, loan managers, and bank employees working at Walmart right now because they
Hmm.
weren't ready to give it up. They weren't ready to have the camaraderie with the people, the staff, the people that know them that come in and see them when they're shopping. They come over and say hi. He said, I wasn't ready to let this go. And I doubt very much that had anything to do with finances. It had to do with staying sane. And if you're not, everybody is a traveler. And
No, no,
and
that's true.
also we have to be so careful, Mary, and we talk about this a lot sometimes, is that we have to also acknowledge the people that can't do things. Sometimes people
For
hit
sure.
60 and they've got MLS or uh, whatever it is. We honor that too. If you
For
are
sure.
not able to do something, that's okay. We're talking about the people that can still, what your tagline, do what you
But you
can
can.
as long as you can. We're not talking about people that have become ill. Although my neighbor who has, gone through hell and back in the last year and a half, and I think you got to meet her just recently, Nancy.
Oh,
She's
yes.
amazing.
Hmm.
Like she's out when she's not going during chemo, whenever she was having a good week, she was back out there pole walking. She is amazing. She is amazing. And when she misses a meeting or a walk day or something social, it's
Hmm.
because she's really ill.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you, she has influenced a lot of people.
Good for
We've
her.
sat back and thought, boy, if we had to go through what she went through, could we handle it as well as she has? So that's
You
pretty
touched on
amazing.
you touched on a good point there, Annette, because I think there are some people who might be inclined to, I don't know, I don't want to say get kind of in feeling sorry for themselves that, if only you lived the way I lived, you wouldn't be able to do things. And yet, people like Nancy that inspire others, you look around and you see that there are a lot of people who are in worse shape or worse circumstances, and just to get some of that positivity from them. And if you don't want to do it for yourself, then maybe serving in the volunteer. I've always been an advocate for the volunteer organizations. And the older people that were so committed, the baby boomers that were so committed to volunteering, are not able to as much anymore. So we need a younger group of people to come forward and to make a difference in their lives. So if money's not the issue, like I'm not saying that everybody that wants to go back to work, it's all money driven. We talked about that. But maybe if you can, look at how can you serve somebody else voluntarily.
Well, for me, the winning in volunteering is when you don't know you're volunteering, right? So some people, I think a lot of volunteer organizations over the years have, if somebody was interested, they really utilize them perhaps just a little bit too much. So a lot of people have walked away from
Hmm.
volunteering. So we have to be very careful. And you know what, you go into volunteering with boundaries. You say, I will be here for you once every week, once every 2 weeks. You don't dedicate your whole life. If you do, then you'll find yourself volunteering 24/7. So there has to be some kind of balance. But the trick about volunteering is, there was a point in my life where I said, oh my gosh, I'm not volunteering enough. I'm not volunteering enough. And somebody said to me, aren't you a Toastmaster? And I said, yes. And they said, oh my gosh, you pay to be a volunteer. Now,
Exactly.
isn't that true, Mary?
That
Like
is
we
very
we
true.
show up, we
Yeah.
show up to events and they ask us either to prepare them or help with the contest or help with this and help with that. And by the way, there's a fee. And we just hand it over.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we actually pay, and we're
I never
talking
thought of
minimal
that.
fees. Yeah,
That's true.
we're
But
talking
our payment is
minimal,
our payment is
minimal fees.
such other things, right? I mean, what we gain from that is astronomical. But when I used to speak at an organization for volunteering, and they were concerned about having enough people, I would say, our volunteer structure isn't what it used to be when our baby boomer parents started up. They didn't have the opportunities that we have today that are vying for time. And so they have to change it. You don't sign up for life anymore. You can say,
Yes,
oh, we're having this event. Can you help us that day? And if they
yes.
take that approach, but for those people, I really think it's important for people who are um, giving up on doing something more because they think they're done. I think that's what I fear. And when I watched you as you progress and say, okay, I can't do this anymore because of the physical limitations of, and nobody wants a job that gives them a lot of physical pain. That's a
Yes,
given. But
yes.
you are a great example of, okay, I'll just look at doing something else. And you have. And that's why I wanted you to come here today. So as you're thinking about moving forward, you're still in the active service. Um, what kind of opportunities do you see out there as you're networking with business people for others to maybe look at as a chance for them to do something?
Well, every town has a chamber of commerce or a BNI, business, not BNI, the business center of a town,
Hmm.
and they have functions all the time, fun functions, a lot of fundraisers. And if you don't know anything about the small town that you live in, there's a good chance that's going on somewhere. You don't have to get involved at a high level, but there are a lot of organizations that do fundraising. And I'm talking straight capital FUN,
Hmm.
fun and fundraising.
Yes.
With Saga, I've never seen such a small town with a lot of fundraising. You don't have to go to all of them. You can pick and choose the ones you want to go to, and you can pick and choose the ones you want to volunteer with, but they are straight fun. And you will meet so many people. I think at this point in your life, if you're not like me and you, we are naturally drawn to people. If you are feeling a loneliness in your life, you need to reach out, maybe in a small way, go play cards, go to the Stitch and Biatch, do something. Loneliness is what I believe is a huge killer,
Mm.
and women and men. You need to take a step out of your own living room and go watch people play euchre. And like, I was scared to play euchre. I never played euchre. And here I was playing with people that have been playing 25 and 30 years. But they were pretty patient with me. I learned how to, and then I learned how to play bridge euchre, and I love it. I find that the people were so supportive in bringing new people in. We have so much fun. So if you find yourself stuck, I know it's not easy. Call a local Toastmasters, ask them if there's anybody in your area. If you don't have a car, don't use that as an excuse. I think I'm taking one or two people tomorrow night to a meeting. I reached out. They have cars, but I'm still offering because I'm going that way anyway. So I might as well have a carpool. But there are some people without cars. So maybe offer to take them or ask the organization if they could give you a contact. And I'm telling you, they would. They would say, where do you live? We'll have somebody pick you up. Do it. You know what, Mary? Do anything to meet at least 1 to 5 people. Do anything, because loneliness is way worse than being broke. Like, if you don't have to do it for finances, that's fine. But do something. Do
I
something.
think what you're mentioning, I think what you're mentioning about groups, as I think about that, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking most groups have such a diversity of people. So if finances might be part of your need, finding a way to be introduced to more diverse occupations or opportunities to go in and change your career path, or just find opportunities of where people are hiring. You might start off volunteering, you might start off with a group play cards. I know I've joined you with playing cards, and there were people of all ages pretty much there, and I'm sure they all came from different walks of life. And part
Yes.
of our research, I'm sure your part of your research was talking to people. And I'm sort of thinking that if we stay in our house too long and we get sort of away from that social, it's harder to get restarted. You might just think, oh, well, they won't like me, or I haven't been out, I've got nothing to wear. And we start making excuses. But if we go out and look at these groups, we'll find somebody. I mean, somewhere along the line, somebody must have introduced you to mortgage, a need
Yes.
for
At
a
one of
mortgage
my
agent.
groups. At one of my groups.
Exactly. So joining groups would be great. And sometimes it might just be going to the recreation center, the senior center. There are places that you can go to
Your
find a
centers.
new lease on life, if you will.
Line dancing. If you like
Oh,
music,
wow.
you know me and my I'm always promoting line dancing because line dancing is great for left feet, right feet, introverts, extroverts. It covers the whole gambit. And
Yes,
you can be single and you can be in a couple. Line dancers do not um, extricate you because you're single or in a couple. They don't, because you dance separately. So
exactly.
line dancing is almost everywhere. Look it up.
Mhm.
Have your granddaughter, your daughter, Google it for you. Another point I wanted to make is that I too I'm an extrovert, but my daughter is an introvert. She's now slash an what do we call it? Ambivert?
Ambivert.
Ambivert. With maturity, she's
Yes.
become an ambivert. But when she was young, and I had my concerns because grade 8, she said she was going to grade 9. She said, I'm not going to join anything, Mom. I can't. I'm too shy. So I had a little bit of help with somebody on the outside because even though I can help shy women, I couldn't help my own daughter, because it's coming from mom. But
Yep.
I had her for 6 or 8 weeks, have her coached on how to try to find her voice, and
Mhm.
it worked. And that coach suggested that when she goes to high school, that she joins at least one thing. One became two,
Mhm.
two eventually became three, but it was all about joining that one thing at first. If you find yourself being shy or introverted, and at the end of the day, it was cheerleading, which I was having an absolute fit because I thought, what if they reject her? What if they reject her? They didn't. And then her teacher 2 months later said, okay, I need you all to be louder, like be loud like Stevie Lee. And she came home, Mom, I got recognized for being loud at cheerleading. That was a good moment for her. She's still an introvert today, but as you know, she loves to talk. She likes to have good conversation.
Yeah.
So she's not a great, nor is my husband. They don't like they like conversation, real conversations. So I would say if you're an introvert, it is difficult. That's why if you can bundle up with somebody,
Mhm.
for the first time out, don't be afraid to ask. Most people want to help other people. But
Absolutely.
that's always going to be harder for the quieter person.
But taking
But
that
then,
first step is so important.
yes, it
And it
is.
doesn't have to be a giant step. You don't have to, like with Toastmasters, and we're unpaid, unofficial ambassadors because we recognize the value that Toastmasters brings. But we've had people come that are guests 2, 3 meetings to get a sense of what's going on. No one that shows up for the first time is obligated in any way to do anything
Yes,
beyond what they're comfortable with. And I would imagine a lot of groups are the same way. They welcome you in, but they're not asking you to sign a lifetime commitment to be president or anything. You can start
that's
with a
correct.
small step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But just do something while you can.
Exactly, exactly. It's like get off the couch, get out of the house. In fact, when I moved, when I married my late husband, and we moved from up north to down in the Guelph area, we only, out of all the boys we had, we only took the one youngest one with us so he could continue his schooling. And he spent a lot of time in the house. Now we're talking about a 14-year-old that was going from grade 8 to high school. And my husband would say to him on a pretty regular basis, well, you won't find friends in your room. And unfortunately, whether you're 14, 24, 84, it's pretty much the
Yeah.
same thing. Your friends aren't living in
Yes.
your room. So
Yes.
go find go find a place where you're welcomed and you'll feel comfortable, and just you don't have to stay there. If it's not for you, then find another group.
I have never gone to a new thing, a new group, a new meeting, and never felt nervous. I was nervous
Oh,
every time.
I think that's great.
Nervous. I'm nervous. I have no idea what I'm walking into and how many people. And then as soon as you walk through the door, there's always one person that says, "Hey, new face, how are you?"
Yeah,
And then the
exactly.
nerves are gone.
Yeah.
There's always somebody looking out for the new faces.
Do you know what I found, Annette? I found that with these groups, that the ones who have the biggest smiles and the most welcoming are usually at the door for a reason.
Yes.
And they'll take
Yes.
you and introduce you to other people and make you feel right at home in a very short period of time. But
Yeah.
it's a mental health thing.
They
Sorry.
probably were once the quiet ones too.
Well, that's possible for sure. They know what it feels like to be that person. Like,
Yeah.
do something, like you said, Annette. You're absolutely correct. That's my philosophy. Because if you quit living a full life at 60, today's longevity, that's a long time to get to 80, 85 and say, well, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have done more. But
Yeah.
we're living as long as possibly now. And use the time every day.
Yeah, because boy, we just don't know. We just it's kind of scary at this time in our life. We're exposed to a lot of people leaving
Yeah,
us now, and we just got to do what we can do while we still can.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Great. And I love too what you stand for, Mary, because I know you always say, "How am I courageous? How am I brave?" Well, you're doing something that very like there might be a big group on Facebook that's doing it, but you're talking internationally big. But in your own backyard, how many women do I know get a van, turn it into a little room and a little place for a computer and a bed and a sofa, a conversion. It goes from a bed to there's no bed and a sofa in her van, but it's a very small space and yet a very cozy space.
yeah,
And
it
also,
is.
you're afraid of the dark
Oh,
and you still went and did it anyway. I'm glad during those times when you traveled and you were feeling fear, you reached out on your computer and said, man, like it's pouring rain and I hear it and I feel it and I'm a little scared, but it's okay because you got to reach out to somebody. And then perhaps when the phone call or the video or the voice was finished, you were tired enough to go to sleep.
oh, for sure.
And that's another thing, when we're not dealing with things well, at least from somewhere in one of the groups we met, you can connect with somebody, right?
Exactly.
You're never
Exactly.
alone in the world. I
Hmm.
think we all need to know that when we reach out and hang out with people, we're really never alone for those times that we're struggling.
I think if you're feeling lonely, some of it you have to take responsibility for causing that yourself. So there are other people out there that are just as lonely, but they're out there doing something. And that I know not everybody wants to crawl into a 4 by 4 foot little van to travel the road. You studied, you became a mortgage agent to help people. I wrote a book. I try and go out and speak and encourage people to do things. So yeah, I'm still working, and I've chosen a very different path than what you've chosen. But I don't think it's about the path and which one. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If it's just going out and volunteering, walking around the block, and you see that one person on the doorstep every day that's by themselves, stop and chat. Um,
That's right.
the life is a gift and meant to be
That's
lived.
right.
So thank you
Um,
for taking the time to come and share that, and
no problem.
your
No problem. My
exuberance, your
pleasure.
energy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Well, you're a great example of what it means. And I look at your daughter, and I know we live for our children too, and we can show them that, there's there's more to life than just quitting when you start being a senior. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to age gracefully. I'm going to live fully, enjoy every minute I can until, until it has to change. But I'm open to change, as are you, obviously, right?
Yes,
So when we can't do
absolutely.
this, you and I will go do something else. Okay.
That's correct. That's right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Mary.
so much. I appreciate now. And now, if somebody wants more information about how you go about signing up for school or getting educated or making a change, we all want people. Where can
Sure.
people find you?
Uh, Find me on Facebook. You can
Okay.
find me Annette Lavigne, just like Avril, Lavigne. You'll know me because of this. You'll see me. Can't miss the booth. And yeah, send me some message. Anything, any questions at all. I'm open. You know that.
I do know that, and I know
Yeah.
you're willing to share, and you
We'll
will.
reach out to you, and you'll reach out. You'll connect us. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
Good.
thanks again. And for those of you that have joined us today, I hope our enthusiasm has stirred you to realize that, the world is our oyster. We can get out there and be a part of whatever. Now, having said that, like Annette said, not everybody has the 100% health and ability. I will never be, prima ballerina at a ballet company, no matter how much I might want. So, I mean, there is a reality check here, but you can do a lot. And as Annette has shared, and I've shared, that don't die before you're dead. Live every day like it's going to be perhaps your last, and live it fully until you can't do what you want to do anymore. So, till next time, thank you for joining us and all the very best. Bye now.
Thanks.